The Scout organisation has been with us for decades now, but it is still as popular with the kids as it always has been. Well, Robbie Moore is here in the studio to tell us how the Scouts have had to change over the years. Robbie, a very good afternoon.
Hi.
Let's start off with, I suppose a good place would be the history. Let's go back. Right, when were the Scouts formed? Was it early 1970s? Tell us.
100 years ago, next year, in 1907, actually.
That would mean you've got a big anniversary on the way next year.
It sounds
somewhere
a bit
around
like
there. Okay, now we said just about every kid has been into it. Now, we've got to set the scene here. Steve, let me describe Robbie to you. Young lad, I was expecting the uniform, toggles, and you coming in there, ging, gang, but that doesn't happen.
Well, I've almost shot myself in the foot. I'm wearing shorts and a shirt, but unfortunately these shorts from TK Maxx have a big skull on the side.
Well,
and this is a polo shirt.
That's fashion. I've never understood it. I'm going to take one look and you'll see what I mean.
Well, if you look at my polo shirt, it's got Durham Network written on, and that's essentially my uniform.
Oh, you will? I mean, as a responsible... How old are you, by the way, Rob?
21.
You're 21, okay. How long have you been in the Scouts, then?
Well, since I was a beaver, so beavers are aged 6 to 8, so I must have been 6 or 8.
So quite a long time. We're talking 15 years.
Not all my life, yeah.
Is this quite normal? I mean, as a responsible person who's been with the Scouts for a long, long time, you're allowed to walk around like that and represent what is a great organisation.
Well, this is one of the misconceptions of the Scout Association. People think we sing ging. I was joking with you earlier about singing Ganguli, and you said, God, you don't sing that, do you?
You don't?
Well, I don't.
That was going to be my next question.
No.
I was expecting a fine rendition.
Well, we don't wear shorts. Maybe they did in the past in 1907 when Baden Powell formed the movement.
Yeah.
But not anymore. The Scout Association has changed massively over the last few years, particularly recently when we've undergone quite a few major changes to modernise the Scout Association.
I suppose it's had to, Steve, hasn't it? You've got to move on there, and it's safe to join, and it's safe to join even the Sea Scouts because he was thrown out.
What do you mean safe?
I wasn't
He's still standing by this. He wasn't thrown out. He just chose not to do it.
But what about these new badges? Have you got anything to do with these new badges that are coming in?
You've read the Daily Mail, have you?
No, actually, I haven't. I read it in the Guardian.
Really? Oh, they're all
jumping on the bandwagon,
aren't they?
No, but you've got to, the Scouts has got to develop, hasn't it? It can't stay stuck back in like some August 1950s organisation. It has to develop to reflect.
Well, I'm glad you're putting a positive spin on that. I was watching the Right Stuff last week on Wednesday morning, I think, and they put a bit of a negative spin on this, saying that these modern badges are, we're losing, the Scout Association is losing the history that they had, and we're not letting kids do all of the great things that they used to do. Well, that's just not the case. We've got these new badges, which the Daily Mail have suggested are detracting from the true nature of the Scout Association. And I'll give you an example that they came up with is the IT badge. And what's wrong with teaching kids IT at Scouts? The one message I want to get across is that these new badges aren't just the new badges aren't.
Can we just go back? The badge itself. I thought it was the design of the badge. I mean, like a big flashy light version. So this is what you can get badges for. What could you get badges for before in the past, then, Robbie?
Well, I had a flick through the handbook this morning. And we like to put negative press on all of these new badges.
Yeah.
The mechanics badge is a relatively modern badge, and God, I wish I had done my mechanics badge when I was a kid. I've got my Skoda, which I just bought a few weeks ago, is falling to pieces. I wish I'd done my mechanics badge too.
Someone didn't tell you that beforehand, though.
But the mechanics badge is sponsored by the A, and this is a modern badge, which is a really useful skill to teach young kids. And if you're 14 years old and you know how to fix a car, that's fantastic.
But seriously, what is wrong with moving forward? So you can have the mechanics, you can have your IT. Obviously, you couldn't get a computer badge back in the 1950s, no such thing, so you've got to move forward.
Well, yeah.
Can we talk about how healthy the Scouts are at the moment? I mean, here you are. Seriously, you are the new face. You are the fresh face of the Scouts.
Or voice.
And the voice as well, yeah, ideal for radio. We've set the scene here, Steve. You can visualise what Robbie looks like. Still as popular as have always been the Scouts? Are we still getting the numbers in there? Kids still want to be part of it?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, we're increasing our numbers. I spoke to our county manager who runs the County Scout, the Durham County headquarters, and Moorhouse, which is down in Durham, is busier than ever. We've got off-road go-karts, climbing, abseiling, Land Rover. We've got actual off-road Land Rover track for kids. 14-year-old kids, 13-year-old kids driving a Land Rover around this track. It's more popular than ever, and it's more popular not just in a modern respect with these new badges, but in doing the things that we always did, camping and sitting around campfires, which are all great social activities.
I can't think of anywhere where a 13 or 14-year-old is going to get the chance to drive a Land Rover.
Exactly.
Off-road as well.
I mean, many of the opportunities I've had in scouting have been unbelievable. We've got 12 applications in Durham County this year for overseas events just this summer, which means we've got 12 groups of people heading off overseas. One of them is a group doing their Explorer Belt in France, and I believe they're canoeing down a river in France, actually, which is amazing. I hope this weather doesn't hold out. They'll be sunburned.
Okay.
A bit like me.
Is there some rivalry between the scouting organisation and woodcraft folk?
Woodcraft folk? What do you mean by woodcraft folk?
Woodcraft folk. You know, woodcraft folk.
Is that a Christian sort of scout? I don't know.
No. I mean, when I was a kid, there was obviously the Sea Scouts, but we'll ignore them because they kicked me out because I didn't want to go.
I knew you'd say it sometime.
There was the woodcraft folk and there was the scouts.
Well, I've never heard of the woodcraft folk.
You've never heard of the
woodcraft
never heard of
folk? Maybe that's because I'm only young, 21 years old.
Hip and trendy. That's
or maybe you're just too old.
Right, I'm not asking any more questions.
No, never heard of the woodcraft folk.
You put him in a bad mood. I've got to work with him for the rest of the day now. I hope you realise the damage you've just gone and done there, Robbie.
But I presume by the title woodcraft folk, I mean, woodcraft's one of the many skills we teach scouts still. I mean, it's a great skill. It's not necessarily useful in this day and age, but it's great fun, and we can have fun in teaching kids doing it, and the kids can have great fun learning it.
Well, actually, Steve, I'll come to your defence. I have heard of woodcraft, but I haven't got... my belief is it's a Christian sort of clubby... families, parents taking kids away. You can tell I don't know much about them.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I haven't got a clue, really. OK, woodcraft, if someone can enlighten us, please.
I'd never open my cake.
That'd be a lesson, same here.
With all these different badges, do you have to bring in different people, or as you as a sort of a leader of the Scouts, are you expected to have all these skills to be able to teach these badges?
Well, I'm not actually a leader of a Scout group. I'm part of the network section, which is the 18 to 25-year-old section. And this is one of the modernisations which the association made a few years ago in modernising and bringing forward the age ranges for the groups. So there are now 5 sections: Beavers, Cub Scouts, Explorers and Network. So a lot of you listeners will remember Venture Scouts, and maybe they were members, but that's become Explorers and Network, which breaks down a few boundaries. But not a Scout leader, but within Scouts, there are the Scout leaders themselves have a lot of useful skills, but it's important, especially now, to make sure that the people that teach the Scouts skills are actually correctly qualified. And so we bring in lots of experts. But there are 100,000 volunteers, that's leaders in the Scout Association in Britain, and of those 100,000 people, there's bound to be people with extraordinary skills. We can bring in experts.
At what age have you got to leave the Scouts? Or do you? Do you just move on to be...
Well, scouting is a way of life, really. I mean, as I said before, I've been in it since I was about 6 years old, and it's been fantastic to me.
Will you ever grow tired? I mean, will you get to the stage where you think,
Well, the Scout Association is a movement, so no one should ever grow tired. It's constantly changing, constantly updating and modernising.
So it's for life?
Scouting is for life. I mean, just because the network section, which I'm a part of, finishes at 25 years old, doesn't mean you can't continue being a leader. Or we have what we call the fellowship, which is a section for the older Scouts, perhaps, and that's very much a social group of people.
Having never been part of the Scouts movement, I mean, basically, I don't think you wanted me. I mean, I fully understand that. Don't get me wrong.
I'm sure they would have.
How often do you meet? I mean, how often do you get everyone together?
Well, this varies massively. I mean, the younger sections would tend to have a meeting typically every week, but in Network, which is the section I'm a part of, we tend to have a meeting every month. And actually, most of our meetings are event based, so we wouldn't have a meeting. We would just, maybe if we were going over to the Lake District perhaps to go canoeing, that's when we would all meet. So the only time I get to see a lot of my friends in Network would be when we meet for activities, which was sometimes is very regularly and sometimes isn't. But that's a great thing about it. A lot of Network members aged 18 to 25 are students, me included, and so for us that's the easiest way to operate the section.
What about funding and all of this? It obviously sounds, things come with expenses, don't they? If you want to go canoeing, you need the canoes. If you want to go to the Lake District, you need transport to get over there. How does that actually work, the funding of it?
Well, a lot of the funding comes from fundraising. There's a lot, the younger sections particularly will have to fundraise to fund their activities. It's a charity, of course, the Scout Association, so there's a lot of money coming in that way. But the network section, which I'm a part of, we tend to fund ourselves because we're all relatively young adults and we might have jobs, and so we're quite happy to fund ourselves. But there is a lot of support if people need it from lots of organisations which are happy to give money so that young people have the great fun and experience these fantastic experiences that a lot of young people don't have the opportunity to do.
Good on you. Okay. The next thing you should look into getting is maybe a website or a telephone number. I don't know if you've thought of that at all.
Of course I've thought of that.
Well, I mean, you've already got one. You're ahead of me. Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it was someone a bit more experienced than a scout perhaps learning his IT badge, but I mean, this is where you start. We do have some websites. If you want to go on to the UK site, it's www.scouts.org.uk.
Scouts.org.uk.
That's right, and that'll take you to our UK site, and there's loads of facts there, and you can find out about all the different sections, and you can find out where your local scout group is. If you want to go on our Durham County website, which I'm part of, the website is www.durhamscouts.org.uk.
Durham, all one word, durhamscouts.org.uk.
Yeah, that's right.
Lovely stuff. Robbie, thank you very much indeed for joining us in the BBC Radio Newcastle studios this afternoon. You're listening to BBC Radio Newcastle. It's Paul and Steve. Blue Bus is in South Shields today. And after 1 o'clock this afternoon, it's Julia Hankin, as always, or the high standards of the BBC. What's Julia up to this afternoon? We'll find out next after Gabrielle.